Hi, welcome to your first assignment of the semester, the WebPage Assets assignment. In front of you is an example that I've created, and you can see the color theme, okay? And you can see that only one of these 8 buttons actually has something in it, okay? Because that's going to change in a second, and I'll show you something in a minute. But here's another example. If I go down to Window and I have 2 of these files open because I can't see my tabs, and I'll tell you why later that I can't see my tabs. Here's another example. Now you can see that I changed the color in this, and I'm going to hit a quick key, which I'll tell you later is what it is. I'm going to go back to the other tab. So you can see that I have a kind of a bluish theme here, and this one's like a grayed off theme, okay? And the only thing that I care about, you can choose whatever color you want. You can even choose whatever shape you want to be in this pattern. It doesn't have to be a dot or the Macomb logo. So I'm going to show you how to actually make your own pattern and save it in Photoshop so it can be used in the background. So I'm going to close this one here, but I wanted you to see that the elements you have to have are MACA 1320 over here, Home, About, Services, Work, and Title, and Contact are your words that are going to be in the title bar up here. These are All Work, Photoshop, and Illustrator, these side buttons right over here. Then this says Photography, Image Manipulation, 3D Textures, Caricature, Organic Drawing, Hard Surface Drawing, Movie Poster, and Tear Sheet. Now, where did those come from? Well, eventually, when you get through this class, you're going to see that in my first day handout here, which this isn't exactly your first day handout, it's going to be a little different, but it'll look similar. I'm going to go way up to the assignments on page 7, and I'm going to zoom in. Now look at how it says Web Page Assets, Photographic Retouch, Image Manipulation, 3D Texture, Caricature, Organic Object, Hard Surface Product, Movie Poster, and Tear Sheet. So we're going to use those 8, and that's where they came from. So eventually, if you wanted to make a portfolio of the 1320 class, it's going to work like this. So I'm going to minimize that screen right there, and I'm going to show you in the actual PDF file. So I'm going to go to the PDF file for this assignment, and I'm going to zoom out, and I'll show you how I zoom in and out later. But this is an example, again, showing all that you have to turn in. This is it. If you do the PSD version, PSD stands for Photoshop file, and you only watch movie 1, there actually are 3 movies, see, for this assignment. Movie 1 is the only required movie. Movie 2 and 3, read that, are extra credit. That's where you can choose, if you want, to turn your Photoshop page into a web page. But we're only going to do this part of it on movie 1. Movie 2 and 3, I will then convert it to a web page. I'll quickly show you the web page. If I go up here, you can see that I've already done that right here. Now I filled all these with stuff, okay, that are examples of the portfolio pieces from image manipulation, 3D texture, caricature, and so on. And one of the buttons actually works, okay, so I actually can click, see how I roll over that and it has a change right there? See how the photography turns from a color to white? Okay, see how Photoshop, All Work, and actually here, they don't click to anything, but I made the rollovers active. Okay, so they work. All right, so all of the rollovers and everything works here, but this is the only one that links. So that's the only one that you will do that will link when you do the Dreamweaver version, if you want to do movie 2 and 3. It's not necessary. So when I click that, see how it goes to the photography page, so you can see what you actually have done there, okay? And I'll go back. So that's an example of what it's going to look like. Now, I'm going to minimize or hide Photoshop for a second because I want to go into Canvas and I want to show you first, here's the Macomb page, and we're going to go get 3 files, okay? I need to get rid of this one. We're going to go get 3 files, and the files are going to be the ones that we use in this program. The first one's going to be the PDF that you already saw. Okay, I'll show it to you again. This is the PDF that you're going to get, and it's called, let me hit Control or Command 0, it's called the Readme First Web Page Assets file, because it has the Command N new sizes. It has the requirements for what I want you to do and how I want you to set this up. So to go from the web page number 1 and then follow 2 through 7 to get all of this right. And we have to make sure that Artboards is unchecked in here. See how there's an uncheck in Artboards. Okay, so I'm going to minimize that, but I'm going to show you again. If you click to the My Macomb down here, you're going to go to this page, right? Once you put in your username and password, you're in the My Macomb page. Many of you have been here dozens and dozens of times. So you know that if you have to go to the student version of this, here's the current and former students where you can get all your stuff and your grades and register for classes and everything. But down here is Canvas. So if I click Canvas, you can see that I can go over to this dashboard here. All right, and if I want to go to your class, it's going to be hit courses. Now I have a lot of classes in that list. You will have a few, maybe even just one. But here is your 1320 Winter 2021 class. Now click Modules. That's where all the weekly assignments are. If I go down past the first module, you will see the web page assets. Now in here, I want to, and I'm going to move this over slightly, I want to get the photography JPEG to the screen. It'll download right over here to the right. So when I click it, just click Download Photography JPEG. Now I'll go back. Now I want to get the dots PNG, so I click it. Then I click the Download the dots PNG, and they will appear right there. So now here are your first 2 files right there and right there. Let's go back one. And if you want to use the logo, here is the Macomb Community College logo. I got it by just Googling Macomb Community College logo, and I got the PNG of this, and it's just the indicia. It's not the words, okay? So I have that, and it's right there. So there are our 3 files that I'm going to need to complete this assignment. All right, so now I can minimize that. So now let's go open, as I said, a brand new page in Photoshop. So I'm going to close one of these. So let's close the gray one that's right here. I'll hit Command or Control W. Now I'm not quite sure if I've said it because I've done this movie over several times, but on a Mac, the Command key is the same as the Control key on a PC. So I'll try to give the Mac and the PC commands pretty much every time. Alt is Option. So Alt on a PC is Option on a Mac, and the Shift key remains the same on both. So what I want to do first is take you through a series of zooming, because we want to get close to items. The way to zoom is not in this tool palette and not in using the zoom tool. Okay, that's not the most efficient way. So when you open your Photoshop, okay, I want you to have Tools up. So you'd go to Window and down to Tools. I also want you to have Options. What is Options? What are Options? Options is this upper bar here. So I'll show you when I go to take Options away right there. Now, that's not good because I need my options back. So I'm going to go get Options. Now I want you to have the Layer palette, which you see over to the right, which is right there. Okay, and in a few minutes we're going to need the Character palette. We might need the Paragraph palette, and you can see how I have them here. See how I can undock Paragraph from Character, and if I didn't have Paragraph and I just suddenly got rid of it, I could go to Window and Paragraph. Now watch how I can grab the name of it and throw it into the Character palette so that I can dock them together, and it just saves room on your screen, right? Just saves room. So what I want to do right now is to make sure that you have one more window, because we're going to need that in a second, and it's called Info. All right, now let's practice zooming. So how do you zoom correctly? You hold Alt or Option, just hold your finger on it. Scroll your middle mouse button. First, let me zoom into his eye right here. Okay, so if I put my cursor, let me go to the Move tool. If I put my cursor right here on his eye and I hold Alt or Option and scroll, do you see how I get right into that eye? Now I'll scroll out. Now watch how I can go into the P on photography. If I actually just hover over the P and get close, do you see how that lets me zoom in and zoom out? Isn't that efficient? Isn't that the best way to do it? Let's go to the word contact. So I have my finger down on Alt or Option and I zoom into contact. Now zooming in and out of something is important. Now, do you see that I'm holding the space bar? And do you see how I can move the screen around? Well, that's not always the case in Photoshop because there are 3 screen modes right here. You see these three screen modes right there? It's the F button. So I'm going to click F once, click it twice, and you can see how I can go back to the standard screen. Now the reason I did this was because I want you to see that if I try to hold the space bar down, I can't move anything. So if I wanted to zoom in and get close to this word contact, yeah, I could zoom in, but look, now it's off the page. I can only get it to this much. I can't actually go down anymore. All right, so my point to you is working in standard screen mode, which is the first F key, is not the most efficient. Watch if I hit it again. I'm actually in full screen mode with menu bar. Now, that's the best one because you can hold the space bar down and look, you can move it all around the screen. So I'll hold Alt or Option and zoom into the word Illustrator. I'll zoom out. I'll zoom into his teeth and I'll zoom out. Now I'm going to announce that all the time, but it's time to begin the assignment and get right into it, okay? So far, you've learned that F key is standard screen mode, full screen mode with menu bar, and full screen mode, in case you want a presentation mode. So I'll just hit F again and F again. Okay, that's what I want to do. Now, let's now start this over. Oh, the other thing that you actually learned is to hold Alt or Option and zoom in and zoom out. So I just want you to kind of remember those. So when I ask you what is zoom, you're going to say hold Alt or Option and scroll your middle mouse button. Okay, I constantly ask my students to repeat what I say, even though you're on the other end of a movie and I can't really hear you. But I'm going to pretend I do hear you. Okay, so let's go to File, New. And if you read that PDF that you downloaded to your screen, you're going to click Web. You see that right there? You're going to leave it in pixels right there, and you're going to put 1200 by 600. You're going to uncheck artboards. What, Brian? Uncheck artboards. And you're going to hit Landscape. You're going to change it from a normal resolution of 72, which is normal web page. And we're going to put in 300 just to have some clear stuff going on. But I would normally leave it on 72. But we're going to choose let everything else be. Let the white be, let the RGB color be, and just click Create. Now, you're going to set some guides in here, but in order to set some guides, we need a palette. We need this info palette. All right. Now in the info palette, I need to make sure I can see my guides. So there's a couple of things I want you to do right now. I want you to make sure that you have Snap on. Please make sure you have Snap on. Now, I also want you to make sure under Show that you have Smart Guides on. Okay, so let's go Snap on, and Smart Guides on under Show. I also want to make sure that you have guides. So I don't want to say hide guides. I want to just say over here, I hit a key command, so I'm not even sure where it is anymore. So I'm going to show you if you pull out a guide from this ruler, and if you don't have your rulers showing, this is the X ruler. This is the Y ruler. Right now it's in inches. I need it to be in pixels. So what I want you to do first, or next, is go to View, and go to rulers. So they're showing. See, right now they're not showing, and right now they are showing. Put your cursor inside this ruler, right hand click and change it to pixels. Please do that right now, okay? Or as soon as you can. And I'm going to hit, now I want to save the file, but Photoshop won't let me save. See, under File, Save is not available because I haven't done anything yet. So let's put in our guides, okay, and then we'll take this one layer that we were given over here to the right, and we'll make it a color to start our whole file. All right, so I want you to set 3 X ruler guides and 3 Y ruler guides. Now we have to keep our eye right here. See where I'm clicking right now? Here's the X ruler numbers, here's the Y ruler numbers. So I want your first guide. Click and hold and pull a guide out and put it at 50 pixels, 50 pixels. Okay, I have to let go right now. Now, hopefully you can see that guide. If you can't, then you want to make sure that guides are showing. Let me see where that is. Okay, so see over here in the show menu, see how guides are showing? If you don't have a check mark by it, just go down there and click on it and let go, and then they will show. And now we can change the color of our guides. For now, I'm going to go into Photoshop, Preferences, and Guides, and I'm going to change the color of the guide right here to like a bright red, just so you can see it real well. Okay, so I'm going to click that, and I'm going to go to Custom, and I'm going to choose a red right there. So you can see I'm choosing a red right up on the top right. I'm going to click OK. Now when I click OK, you can see the guide is now changed to red. Now in a few minutes, red might not work, especially if you have a red background. Okay, so you're going to want your guides to be a different color. You understand? All right, the second guide, if this is 600 pixels deep, put it at 550 pixels. So put it 50 pixels from the bottom at 550. Let me go down to here. I'm taking my time right there. Now do the same thing, but now let's put this one at 125 pixels. So keep your eye on the Y ruler. On the Y ruler, even though we pulled a guide out of the X ruler, we have to look at where it is on Y. So now this one's at 50, 125, and 550. Cool. Let's now pull a guide out here and put it at, guess where? 50 on this side. So we keep our margins correct right now. Let's go over to here. Whoops, I just started something. I didn't mean to do that. I am so sorry. Let's go in here and now pull a guide out, and let's go to 1150, which is right here, and now one in the middle at 600. So there it is. There's our guides that we have set. So I'm going to save the file now, and I want to save it after every single good thing I do. Do you understand? So you're going to hit Command or Control S to save it, which I'm going to do now. I'm hitting Command S to save it, and I'm going to save it into, for now, I'll save it, because I have many of these, I'll save this as my Surreal underscore portfolio, and that's enough right now, but I'm going to put in the word demo so I know it was my demo today. Okay, so you're going to save it as your last name underscore portfolio assets. So I really should have done that. Let's go in here, portfolio. Actually, I'm going to do this one a little, no, I am going to say portfolio. You'll know why in a little bit, okay? And I'm going to leave it like that, but I am going to say demo. You put it in there as your first name underscore web assets. That would be fine, okay? Because if you don't intend to go on to movie 2 and 3, then that would be great. When you open up and do it for movie 2, I'm going to have you make a change, but that's okay. So right now you name it your last name, definitely an underscore, and web assets or web page assets. That's fine. Either one is fine. So I'm going to save it to my desktop right now, and now I've got it saved. Now let's start right in on the background color. Okay, so we are going to double click in the gray area in this layer palette. Double click. Okay, and I don't need the info palette for a bit, so watch this. I'm going to double click the word info and it'll snap up, and I'll just put it down here. All right, I didn't get rid of it. I just put it down there. So let's double click over here and turn this into a layer, but let's say that this is the background, no spaces, color, background color. And now I'm going to choose a background color that's my choice. You can choose whatever background color you want. Can you change it later? Of course you can. So let's be introduced now to a very important thing. Is called the foreground color and the background color. So in your tool palette right here, you have, and you can show the tool palette. Watch this. If you click this upper right thing, see how you can go to a skinny tool palette? I'm going to leave it as this so you can see it better. But this is the foreground color. When I click it, I get a color picker. This is the background color. And you can see it says background color right there. I'm going to cancel. Now, what I want to do is to choose a color, but I want to make sure of something. So I want you right now to go to Window, Color, and have this on your screen for a second. And I want you to see that in this window, there's also a foreground and a background color. Now I'm going to explain something to you really fast here. Photoshop defaults to the most important one, or the one that always gets selected, as the foreground color. It's the one on the upper left. But should you be working in Photoshop and everything seems to go into the background color, or the one on the right, the way to fix that is to go into the color palette, and just click this upper left box. Okay, that's all I want you to do. If, like I said, if the background color seems to be the one that's getting the colors all the time, it's because somebody went in here and clicked the background color. And now that became the most important one. And that's not efficient for Photoshop. So I want to click the foreground color and just close that for the moment. Do you understand? Thank you. So please do that, and now save the file again. Okay, so save it after every good thing. All right, I'm going to click the foreground color, and I'm going to choose a blue-gray. Let's make it a real true, kind of a darker blue-gray, something like this. Now, to fill, there's many ways to fill up a layer. Okay, to fill up a layer, we are going to... I was thinking about something, and I'm not going to show that yet. There's two quick keys for Mac and PC that fill up the foreground color. But if you want to go the long way, you can go to Edit, Fill. See how I'm doing that? I'm letting go. And I can choose foreground color or background color. Well, that'll work, and I'll say OK, and now you see how it's filled. But I'm going to Command or Control Z back one, because I want you to see or hear the quick keys. Now, if I hold Option and hit Delete on a Mac, it will fill with the foreground color. Okay, I'm going to actually change the background color to a red because I want you to see something. Now watch, on the same thing, if I hold the Command key and hit the Delete key, it fills with red. So Command Delete fills with the background color. Option Delete fills with the foreground color. Now on a PC, it would be Control Backspace. Repeat that. Control Backspace is the background color. Alt Backspace is the foreground color. Now you can choose to go to Edit, Fill, and choose the foreground or background color, but that takes way too much time. It really takes way too much time. Okay, so we are going to now continue on, and I'll keep on saying those quick keys all the time, and I'm saving the file. So I wanna now show you that the guides don't work very well in this red, right? They don't. They almost kind of disappear. So I'm going to go to Photoshop Preferences and Guides, just so you can see that you have every ability to change that. And I'll go into this guide one on here. You can see it's down here on the list right there. And I'm going to go click and go to cyan. And I'm just going to click OK. Now I have them where I can see them a bit better. All right, I'm reading my notes right here, and it says we're going to now put a pattern on this. So how do we put a pattern on this? Well, Photoshop needs to have certain files, and you'll see where those files are going to be available for, look at this, edit, define pattern. So we are going to actually go get the Macomb logo, or any file that you want to go get that's a small file. So let me hide Photoshop for a second. Look at how I can do that. And go over here to the Macomb logo. Now, I'm going to open both of these in Photoshop. So look, I'm right-hand click. I'm marqueing right here. I'm going to right-hand click and open them with Photoshop. So now I have that opened. I'll zoom in, and I want to now define this as a pattern so Photoshop can use it. All right, how do you do that? There's only 3 steps, and they're real easy. Select all is number 1. Okay, edit, define pattern, and name it. So this time I will name it Brian Dots, because I already have done this a couple of times and it's already in there, but yours won't be in there. Yours will be in there after, and you'll only have 1. I'm going to have 3. So I now have that one. Command or Control W to close the window. Now let's go to the Macomb logo. Now, do you remember step 1? It was select all. Good. You have to select all. Edit, define pattern, and let's go now to MCC logo _ Brian, just so I know that that's the one. Okay, good. Now I can hit Command or Control W to close that. Now, here's how we make a pattern fit on this page. Okay, so, or be on this page. Look at the layer palette. Do you see how you can go to here up in the upper right hand corner and go to new layer? Well, that's the long way to do it. I don't do that. I go down here next to the trash can. Let me bring this up a little higher. See this next to the trash can? I can click and a new layer will go right in there. Now I want to fill it with white. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to put white, watch this, click the background color, take your little circle in the color picker and shove it up to the upper left hand corner, way up in the upper left hand corner, and click OK. Now, do you remember the quick key to fill with the background color? On a Mac, it's Command Delete. Okay, on a PC, it's Control Backspace. So I'm going to go Command Delete. I made sure I was on this layer, right? Made sure I was on this layer, not this layer, or else I would have covered white up with that. So you see, I still have my blue. See how I'm turning this off and on? Now, the white doesn't matter, but a color needs to be in this layer. White is a color. And now I can actually make the dot or the logo appear. So let's go do that. But first I'm going to double click this and name it pattern. Now I've named it pattern, and I'll hit the return key and I'll save the file. Yes, after every good thing, I save the file. Now, I want to go right click. I want to double click, but don't double click in the icon. Don't double click on the name. Double click in the gray area where I'm clicking right now. So I'll double click to bring up what's called a layer style window. You see over here where it says pattern overlay? Please click it. Now, do you see, because I've put the logo in last, there's the logo. But if I want to choose the dot, do you see how I can go and choose the Brian that actually says Brian dot? Now I have dots in there. So now how do we actually make this work? And in a minute I'm going to change it to my logo, but watch. We have to make the blend mode go to multiply here. It has to go to multiply. Nothing happened, but you'll see what I mean in a minute. Okay, so opacity, just leave up towards 100 right now. Just leave up towards 100, because we can use the opacity in the layer palette in a minute. Okay, now I am going to show you that in scale you can make the dots bigger or smaller. However you want to make them. I'll make them slightly smaller like that. Okay, and click OK. Now over here, in this, as long as you are selected on the pattern layer, make sure you're not selected here, select there. Let's change the mode from a normal opaque mode, and below this line are a bunch of transparency modes. Let's go to multiply. Now the white went away and the dots are right there. So I'm going to zoom in. How do you zoom in again? It's Alt or Option middle mouse button. Do you see how I zoomed in? Now, if the dots are too drastic, take the opacity down. See how I can now minimize these to be just there's. You're the artist. You get to choose what you want to do with those dots. I'm going to leave them about like that, but I'm not going to use dots. I'm going to use the logo. So how do you change that? Let's say that you went and got your best sports car you've ever wanted and you got their logo and you want the logos to be in there, or your favorite team logo. All right. So you went and you opened up the logo in Photoshop, right? You went to select all, right? Then you went to edit and define pattern, right? Now you would have your logo in where I'm going to click. So now watch how I double click in the gray area, correct? Click pattern overlay, not the name, not the check mark, but click pattern overlay in the gray area. And now I can choose my logo. And there's my logo. Now, obviously, the scale for that logo isn't good. So now I need to scale it up. Now you can see I can make them way ridiculously big or a reasonable size like this. Okay, and I'm just going to leave them like that. And that's fine. I like what I see here. Okay. Now I think that my background is too light. So I'm going to click to the background layer. Okay. Turn off look at the pattern is gone. I turned it off. I'm going to go grab the eyedropper. There's a better way to do this, but for right now, I want you to grab the eyedropper and click right there. So the color went to the foreground color. Did you see how that happened? And you remember how I said if the color goes to the background color, you have to go into this color palette right there and click the upper left-hand box so the color goes into the foreground color. Okay, that's important. Now I'm going to click that and make it slightly darker. Now all I have to do is fill up that layer and it'll fill up the color that was already there. So on a Mac it's Option Delete. All right, now I've made it darker. That's very cool, and now I'll turn on my logos. Now what I want to do right now is I'm reading, so just give me a second. Okay, so I need to go to the next one. Yes, the dots. Okay, let's select the background layer. We're going to put a gradient on this, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go to the Sorial Portfolio one. See how it gets darker on the edge? Well, we're going to put a gradient overlay on top of this background. That's what we're going to do so that we can actually kind of make a spotlight feel in the middle. Now, I don't like having to go to here because I can't reach my tabs. There is a quick key if you have multiple files open. And I want you to hear it. Look above the tab key. Look above, look at your keyboard. Look above the tab key. There's a tilde key. That's what that little mark is. It's the most one next to the one. It's to the left of the number 1. So if I go Command tilde, do you see how I can toggle back and forth between files? You would go Control tilde on a PC, Command tilde on a Mac. Now that's important because I don't want to have to go take the time to go all the way the heck down here to go to my files. But I want to stay in the F key, remember the F key, where the space bar lets me grab and hold my mouse down and move my screen around. So I don't want to have to go back to standard screen mode and then keep on hitting the F key all the time. I'd rather, just to get to my tabs, I'd rather not use this. I'd rather use Command tilde to go back and forth between my open files. Okay, now I'll hit Command S to save the file. So click to your background color layer right now. Thank you. And in the gray area, double click it. Now let's go over here and click, don't click the check mark, don't click the name, click in the gray area, and you can see how now this window is for a gradient background. Make sure your blend mode is on multiply. Cool. However dark you want it, do you see how I could make it super dark? And I'll leave it like that because I want to show you something. Look at how if you scale it, look at how it scales the inside spotlight. So I'm going to leave it up about that much, and I think it's too dark on the edges, so I'm going to actually get a little bit lighter, but not too much lighter. I kind of like that right here, and I'm going to click OK. Now if you want to edit it later, just go over to here. You see the word gradient overlay? I'm going to double click it. I'm not going to double click here because I might put 2 gradient overlays in there. Do you understand? If you click here and you click gradient overlay, you might get 2 of them. You don't want 2 of them. So double click the gradient overlay name here and it opens up the same window and the same gradient overlay where you can make it darker or lighter or whatever you want. You follow what I just said? Okay. So I'm going to click OK and I'm going to click Command or Control S to save the file. Now, we're going to do this upper white rectangle. And I'll hit Command or Control tilde to show you there's a white box behind these titles. So I'm going to go back to my tab by going Command tilde. All right, I'm going to make a new layer. So I click up to the highest layer, that's what I want you to do, and click the New Layer button. Double click it and say White Rectangle, or upper white rectangle. I'm going to hit the return key to accept, and there's no spaces. No spaces in the name. Thank you. Command or Control S to save. Now this tool right up here is called the Marquee Tool. I want you to click it. Now if for some reason it's not on a rectangle, look, I can right hand click and go to ellipse or these 2 thin ones. I want it to be this rectangle. So if yours shows up as an ellipse, right hand click and make it back to that, and then just put it off to the side. Now, a marquee is referred to as a selection. It's my first introduction to you who don't know Photoshop, that to fill something up and have it not be on the whole page, you have to have a selection. A selection is a series of marching lines that Photoshop recognizes as an edge. That's it. So I'm going to make a really big one here. See how I did that? Now I'm going to use transform selection to fit it in this upper area. And I'm not going to zoom in more than that. So I want to get as big as I can on the screen, but I want to keep it on the screen. So select, thank you, transform selection. Now, I have to tell you something, and I'm going to go over here to the edge. If this were Photoshop 2020 or earlier, I would have to hold the Shift key down to make this. So pretend I'm in Photoshop 2020 or earlier and pretend I'm holding the Shift key. Do you see how it constrains it to a perfect proportion? Do you understand what I just said? Now, if you let go of the Shift key, you can actually make it any shape you want. See that? Now that's Photoshop 2020 or earlier. Now you know what Photoshop did to us in 2021? They completely reversed that. So now if you have the newest Photoshop, you don't have to hold the Shift key to constrain it. It's automatic. Now if you want to make it be independent so you can make one edge move, not all the edges move, you do have to hold the Shift key. Isn't that confusing? So I'm holding the Shift key and I'm going to make this snap right into that guide. I'm holding the Shift key and I'm going to snap it into that guide. I'm going to hold the Shift key and snap it into the 50 that's right there, and then move this one as high as I can, even off the file. That's okay, because the selection will then go to the edge. How do you accept a selection? you go hit the return key. Now, remember that white was in my background color. So I can literally go make sure I'm selected on this layer. A mistake you will always make in Photoshop as a beginner is you'll be selected on the wrong layer. Now I'm going to purposefully do that with you. Okay, I'm going to now fill it with the background color. See, white is in the background color. So it's Command or Control, Delete or Backspace. So I'm going to go Command, Delete. And I'm going to say, well, what happened? Why did it go there? I wanted it to be up in the upper white rectangle layer. And the answer is, Mr. Silly, you had the background color layer selected. That's where it went. So I'm going to Control or Command Z back one step, click to the white rectangle layer. That's your first rule in Photoshop all the time. Before you do something, check your layer. Now repeat that. Before you do something, check your layer. Thank you. Now I'm going to go Command Delete or Control Backspace, and now there's my white, and I'll hit Save on the file. So the very first thing we're going to do is do the title. Now I have a selection active right here. See that little dotted line thing that's there? Well, let me turn off this so you can see it, and let me hide the guides. All right, now watch. View, Show, and Guides is Command semicolon or Control semicolon. Would you repeat that 5 times with me? To show or hide your guides is Command semicolon, Control semicolon. Now say that. If you're on a PC, say Control semicolon, Control semicolon, Control semicolon. If you're on a Mac, say Command semicolon, Command semicolon, Command semicolon, because I'm not using that. I'm holding Command what? What was it? Semicolon. Command semicolon, Command semicolon, Command Isn't that faster than going up to a dumb menu? Thank you. Now, watch how I can deselect the selection by going to Command D to deselect, or Control D. Could I go up here? Yes. But if I have to rely on going up to these menus, I'll never get anything done. So I'm going to hit Command D if I want to. See? Command D deselects. Command semicolon or Control semicolon shows or hides the guides. Now let's flip back on the visibility of this and hit Command S or Control S to save. Now I'm going to hit Command tilde because you're going to see that we're going to put in the very first sentence, which is the word Sorial Portfolio. But you wouldn't use Sorial, you would use your name. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm going to bring up the character palette, okay? And we're going to hit Command tilde, Brian, which is the key above the Tab key, or Control tilde to go to this. So I take my text tool and I click anywhere, anywhere. Now, I made my first one 14 points high. So I'm going to drag across here and I'm going to make that 14 and I'm going to hit the return key. Okay, you saw that get bigger. Now I'm going to type, okay, Sorial and space and portfolio. Well, gee, I can't see that very well. Oh, look at the color. The color is this dark gray. Well, how can I see that? That's not very good. So here is how you edit in Photoshop. Text, okay? Don't triple click it and then change the color. Don't. All right, that's not the proper way to do it when it's the whole sentence. Now, I'm going to introduce you to the Move tool. The default tool, the safe tool, the wonderful tool that you're going to use most of the time is the Move tool. It is the V key. Would you say that out loud? Move tool, V key, move, V, move, V, move, V. I just want you to get used to these, okay? Now, listen to how I'm going to say this. If I'm selected on a layer that is a word and I'm in the Move tool, all I have to do is change to a color that I want to change to, and I'll make it a light blue like this. See how it changed? So I didn't have to take my text tool and click it and highlight it. That is not the way to do it. Okay, now I'm going to zoom in because I want you to see something. See how when a computer types, see how horrible it makes words and letters? Now I'm going to take the guides away by going Command semicolon, and I'm going to get through this very quickly. What this reads to a designer is it reads S Oriole P Ort Olio. That's how it reads. The P is too far away from the O. All right? The S is too far away from the A when you take it into comparison of the R and the I. So how do you fix that? Well, you do what's called range kerning. You take your T key, see the T key for the text tool. I'm going to just click it between the S and the A, and I'll zoom in. Now, on a Mac, hold the Option key. On a PC, hold the Alt key. Just hold it. I'm holding it now, and I'm going left arrow. Do you see how I can actually take that A and custom kern it away from the S? So on a Mac, which I have, I'm going Option left arrow, and I'm going to make it visually correct. Now I'll just use the right arrow, and I'll close that space down. So I'm going Option left arrow. Let me go over to this one. Now I'm going to hold Option and move that closer. Let's go. The R and the I is fine, but the O and the I needs a little closer movement. See? Now let's go to the L and just do it once. Now that reads better, a lot better. Now I'm just going to use my cursor keys and go over to the P and the O. Now I'm holding Option and left arrow. If you're on a PC, hold Alt and move that over. Let's go over here and move the O and the R together, and then way over to the end. Look what a computer did to the T and the F. I didn't do that. The computer did. So let me go over here and close that space down. Let's hold, whoops. I just did a really stupid thing. I'll tell you what I did in a second when I move that back. I wanted to use the hand tool to move my screen over, and that's the space bar. But look what happens. Let me move this away. Look what happens when I click the space bar. It just adds spaces. So what Photoshop did was they gave us this check mark here. So if I want to keep my layer palette right there, and I want to move this over to the left, I click the check mark. Now I can use my space bar. Now I'm back in the text tool. See? And I'm going to click between the F and the O and go Option left arrow. Let's now move it over here. Option or Alt left arrow. Now I'm going to check your titles, and I'm going to come back to you and tell you, watch what I'm doing here. I think the T and the F need to actually move apart. So I'm going to go Option right arrow a couple of times. Now that reads better. Okay, it reads a lot better. It's visual. So now, look at how I click the Move tool, same as clicking that check mark, and there is my title. Now, see how I can click this faux line here and make it be upper and lowercase like this, and that's how I want to use it. You don't have to do that, but I'm going to use these FAUX styles. They're called Faux Styles. Now, where does this go? Well, I'm going to show my guides. Do you remember how to show guides? Do you remember? It's Command semicolon or Control semicolon. Now I'm going to take and hit the V key. What's the V key? It's the Move tool. Now I want to show you something very important. A lot of you who use this and haven't ever done it before always put your cursor up to the word and move it around. Doesn't that sound normal? But what does the Move tool do? It actually moves an entire canvas around. So see how I can hold it way over here and still move that? Because the only thing on that layer is the words. So you can grab it anywhere you want. You can grab it on it or away from it and still move it. Now I want to center that. So what's the fastest way to center that? Well, you know what, Brian? There's an Edit Transform Command T. So I can actually hit Transform Command T to free transform that. Now why would I do that? Let me zoom in. Because if I hit Command or Control T, do you see how I can move it to the left or move it to the right, and I'm right in the center of where I need to be? That's what I want you to do. So when you're all done typing, hit Control or Command T and use your visual clues to give yourself between the white box and the guide here. Give a nice spacing there, and use the transform middle bounding box, okay, to center it, which is very cool. I should go one more over, hit my return key to accept, and Command S to save. Okay, so now let's go to the next page, which is we are going to go use this for, let me move this over, I'm hitting save again, and I'm going to hit Command or Control tilde to show you we're going to do all work, Photoshop, and Illustrator. Now, let me go Command tilde and show you that I'm not going to just start typing. I'm actually going to use a copy of this. So how do you make quick copies? Because it's important, because I'm going to do it tons today, and you're going to learn it. And this could take some practice with you. Okay? So if you're in the Move tool, hold Alt or Option. Do you see how it turns into a double-headed arrow? You see that right up there? Look above here. It's right there. Now, if I hold Alt or Option and click on that and hold, and then add the Shift key, so when I slide it to this side, I actually have a second one. I'll Command Z back and show you. So again, in the Move tool, hold Alt or Option, click and hold, put another finger on the Shift key and move to the right. Now let's uncheck Faux. Okay, uncheck it so it goes normal. Now I'll move this over. This should be about 5 or 4 points in size. So do you see how I did that? Now it's still on the same baseline. So I'm going to click this, double click it, or triple click it and say all work. That's what I want you to do. Now, remember that if you hit the return key, you'll just go to the next line, and you can't hit the space bar. So you click the check mark. Now let's make all work line up to where we want. So I'm going to click the V key for the Move tool, right? Click and hold the Shift key and put it, click and hold the Shift key and put it somewhere where it's away from the word portfolio. Okay, the next one is going to be Photoshop. Let's go C again. So I'll go down here, Photoshop and Illustrator. So let's hit Command tilde, which is the key above the Tab key. Now how do we make a copy of it? This is another good thing for you to practice on. Let's zoom in, Brian. In the Move tool, you hold Alt or Option, click and hold, add the Shift key, and there's your second one. Now I'll do it for the third one. So in the Move tool, hold Alt or Option, okay, click and hold, add the Shift key, and move this over. Now you have it over here, meaning right where you want it. Now I'm going to move this one once I type the word Illustrator. So I'm going to take the T key and I'm going to type the word Illustrator. So I'm going to triple click ILLUSTRATOR and I click the check mark. Now if it wasn't aligned to this side, click the Move tool. And I'm going to practice click, hold the Shift key so you're only sliding left and right, and I want the R to kiss the guide. Did you follow that? Command S or Control S to save. Now let's hit the T key, triple click, and type in Photoshop. Now I'm going to click the check mark. Now look at how, and this is important, I'm going to purposefully put this way too close to the work one. So you see over here in the layer palette, I have 3 things: all work, Photoshop, and Illustrator. If I click on the first one and shift click on the second one, on the third one, do you see how I have them all selected right here? Now in the Move tool, click to the Move tool, look at your options bar. You have alignments right there. And all we have to do is find where it says distribute. Okay, so I click these three dots, all right, and I find the one right here that says distribute horizontal center. Now watch what happens. Did you see the Photoshop now evenly align itself and distribute the space perfectly? That's important, okay, because that makes it, I don't want to say the word perfect, but it makes it visually beautiful, all right? Now, the next thing that we're going to do, okay, so let me go show you again the finish one. So let's go Command tilde. Do you see how if I click these side buttons, do you see how, let me move it over. Do you see how all work has a white one on top of it? Let me zoom in and show you. So there's a white one on top of all work. There is a white Photoshop on top of the blue Photoshop, and there's a white Illustrator. So you need two of them. So how do you do that quickly? So let's go back to here and take all three. Watch how fast you can do this. All right. Drag it to the new layer icon. Now you have copies of them. Now with them all selected just like this, and if you deselect it, then go back and click that one and shift click this one. Okay, so now you have them all selected. Go to your character palette and click the color. Shove it up in the upper left hand corner and click OK. Now at one time you actually made them all white. Now double click the name and put the letters R capital O at the end of it for rollover. Okay, and I'm going to hit Command or Control C to copy. I'm going to double click Photoshop and put that right there. I'm going to double click all work. Click right to the right of the K, add a space. I don't really need to add a space, but it doesn't matter in this case, and put RO. Now, Illustrator needs to have the rollover on top of it. So now I've changed the stacking order. Photoshop needs to have the rollover on top of the blue one, and all work needs to have its rollover. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick here, and it keeps your mind organized. So if I hold the Shift key and I click both of them, do you see how I can right-hand click over here and put a color on them? So at least I'm gaining some sanity here. So now I know that the red ones are for all work. Now I'm going to click this one and hold the Shift key and click this one. I'm going to right-hand click and color it a different color. I'm going to click and hold the Shift key and right-hand click and make a different color. Now that just organizes everything. The last thing I want to do, and I want you to turn it in with only the Photoshop in white. Okay, but I'm going to check and see if you have the other ones. So I'm turning off the rollover for all work, the RO, and I'm turning off the rollover for Illustrator. Okay, but I'm leaving the one on for Photoshop. Now, there's getting way too many layers. So I'm going to click on the first one and shift click on the last one, which are the 6 side buttons. And I'm going to click the folder right there. That's the third one from the right. I'll double click it and I'll name it Side Buttons. Now I'll save the file and we're done there. Now all we have to do is now march up to the top and put this. We have to put Home, About, Services, Work, and Contact. And we're going to use the same alignment trick. Now what I want you to see in this one is, look at here, and I'll zoom into the word home. I have a black one, which is the rollover state for home. Okay, look at down here. There's the home one right here. So that one should have been right there. Look at how underneath the black one is a gray one. Do you see that? And underneath the about one right there is a gray one. So we're going to put them in here in a lighter value. You can choose in whatever color you want, but the upper ones should be in black. So when you roll over them, they work. And I'm going to show you again what I mean by that. Look at how when I go and roll over these, do you see how they turn black? Now, you're not going to, those of you that only want to do the first movie, you don't have to make that work. But in your Photoshop page, you have to get it ready for that. So let's get it ready. So let me hit Command tilde, click on this, I'm sorry, and Command tilde, and let's start the process. So I'm going to take the all work, I'm going to actually take the T key and just type up here, and we're going to type, let me find my names here. Okay, so let's go to Home, all caps, so I should just leave the caps on. Caps lock is on. And now that's a little too small, it's actually 4 points. So I'm going to click the Move tool. Do you see how I did that? Let me zoom into that so you can see. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to make it be 5 points. Now there is something that I should have shown you, and I'll do it in a minute. Okay, I'll do it in a minute. I'm going to take the Move tool and center this visually. Okay, now I'm going to put all of these next to each other, and then I'm going to distribute them using the proper thing. So using the alignments that are up here and the correct technique. So the next one is About. Now, do you remember how to make a copy of the word Home? Okay, what tool do you have to be in? It's the V key, right, for Move. You hold Alt or Option, you click and hold, you then touch the Shift key and hold it and make it move over. Now let's repeat it several times. Okay, so let's go like this. Alt or Option, click and hold, Shift key, over, let go. Alt, click, Shift, let go. All right. Alt or Option, click, Shift, and let go. Now we're going to put this last one about right where it is. Now let's start typing. So we can now take and hit the T key and type in this one. This one needs to say About. This one over here, let's click the check mark and then click this one. And this one is going to say, where did I put them? Services. And click the check mark. This one is going to say Work, and click the check mark, and this one is going to say Contact. Now I will click the check mark. Whoops, sorry. I will click the check mark. Now I'm going to uncheck caps lock. I'm going to use the space bar and move this over, and I'm going to hold Option, middle mouse button, zoom out a little bit. Now let's take the Move tool, all right, click and hold on Contact, hold the Shift key and put it a comfortable distance away from the edge right there. That's perfect. Now let's look at the layer palette, please. Home is the one on the left, right? Contact is the one on the right. Photoshop will then center all of these based on their size. If I shift click all of them right here. Now all I have to do is go into here, go into distribute this way that I did before, click, and now they are perfectly aligned. Command S or Control S to save. We're getting close, by the way. Okay, so now I need to put a little look at between here we have little dashes. Okay, so let's now go, and the dashes can stay gray. So I'm going to go back to that page. I'm going to take the T key, get close to it, and click right there and just type in a dash. Now I want that dash a little bigger. So I'm going to click the Move tool and put it about where it needs to go. And I'm going to put another guide. Look, I'm going to put it right at the baseline for there. Whoops, I missed. I certainly did miss right there. Okay, now let's zoom in. So I'm going to pick this up and put it about right there, but I want it to be bigger. So I'm going to make this be about 7 points. And I like that. I like how that looks. So I'm going to use my cursor keys to move it down. And I'm going to visually put it between here. Now let's put it on the other ones. So it probably could move just a tad bit to the right. Now, how do you copy it? Well, you be in the Move tool, right? What is the key? It's the V key. You click the Option key or the Alt key, click and hold the Shift key and put in, whoops, I didn't do it. I have to, let's hold this, click, and now put in, all right, it's being funny, and I'm going to show you, sometimes it just doesn't want to obey the Shift key. So what I'm going to do is, I'll just, because it's a small thing here, I'm going to hold Option, click, and I'm just going to move it over a little bit, but now I'm going to hold the Shift key. So that was a little bit of a trick that I've learned over the years when it's not acting nice. Now this one may act nice. What does that mean? I'm in the Move tool, I hold Alt or Option, I click and hold the Shift key, and it did it again. You see how it doesn't want to move over. So I'm going to let go of the Shift key. Now I'm going to add the Shift key back in. Did you see how I did that? Now let's go over here and do it one more time. So click and hold. I'm just going to make a copy. Now I'm going to hold the Shift key and put it over here. So I'm sure you will figure it out, and Command S or Control S to save the file. Now we need to do the black rollovers, right? So before I do that though, I want this to say MACA 1320, and I want to show you a trick. Okay, I wouldn't change the typeface. I've been using ATC Tradewinds, but I want to show you a trick. So I'm going to use the word home, and I'm going to put it over here on the edge, just like this one says. Just a minute. Just like this one here. All right. Did I close that one? No. I don't know why Command tilde is not working. Just a second. Okay. Let's go here. Sometimes, I have to tell you, that's why I told you to save every 5 seconds, because sometimes Photoshop might decide to quit. See how this says MACA 1320 right over here? Well, I'm going to use a copy of the word home and make it slightly bigger. So I'm going to try to hit Command tilde. Now it worked. So now I go to the Home key. Now I want you to see something very cool. What if there were 100 layers? And what if you didn't know where the layer was for the word home? Watch a trick. There's 2 tricks I want you to see. If I'm in the V key, do you see how I can right-hand click and it'll take me to home? You see how it'll instantly go to the home. Now keep your eye on this layer palette as I do the same thing for About. See how it switches. Services. See how it switches. Work. See how it switches. By the way, I'm right-hand clicking with the Move tool, and it'll take me right to that layer. That's amazing. Okay, so I'm going to go to right-hand click, go to Home, and now I'm back on that layer. Now I have to be on that layer if I want to make a copy of it. So I'm in the Move tool, right? I hold Option or Alt, click and hold, add the Shift key, and put this over here. Now I'm going to type in by hitting the T key with the caps lock down, MACA 1320. Now I'm going to switch, hit the check mark. Make sure I'm back in the Move tool. Make sure I'm back in the Move tool. And now I want you to see something cool. So I'm going to hold Option, middle mouse button over here so it gets bigger. Now, I want to show you a trick in previewing different typefaces. All right, and this is so cool. If you don't know it, it is pretty cool. But I'm going to show you that in this edit box here, I could edit, if I was in the T key, I could edit that up here. That 5 points is the same as the 5 points here, but I'm staying in the Move tool. I'm staying in the Move tool. Do you see how I can slide left and right on the T's over here? I'm clicking and holding and sliding left and right, and I can make it bigger. So see how I did that? I've now made it slightly bigger. But watch how cool this is. If you're in the Move tool and you highlight this text in the character palette, you can use the down arrow and it will go through all the typefaces. So you can choose the typeface that you want. Now, let me click away from it and hit Command or Control Z to go back. Let's do it one more time. If you're in the Move tool and you're selected onto the correct layer, right? if you just highlight that, not up here, not in this upper options bar, only in the character palette, you can use your cursor keys to see which ones you really like. And that is such a fast way to preview different fonts. I'm going through all the fonts I have and I'm saying, well, okay, I like some of them, great. But now I'm going to actually click away from this and hit Command or Control Z to go back. Whoops. Let me go back to my normal one. Okay, so let me hit Command S to save. That was important for me to show you. All right, now if you have to watch that again a few times, fine. But now let's get Home, About, Services, Work, and Contact to be the correct in black. So how do you do that again? Well, look, here is Home. I'm going to put it above here. So now I have Home, About, Services, Work, and Contact. I'm shift clicking all of them, right? Right? I drag them to the new layer button and now I have extra ones. With them selected, all I have to do is click and move it to the bottom right. And now click OK, and now they're all in black. Now I have to add the words rollover to the end of that. So there I go right there. I already had it copied from before, and I'm putting, by copying and pasting, you see how I'm doing that, I'm putting the RO over there. And then I'm going to move them into where they need to be. And I'm going to hit the return key on that. So let's make the layer palette bigger. Take your time and get organized. The rollover for contact goes above it. The rollover for work goes above it, and so on and so on and so on. I'm going to definitely check all your organization, because to me, a good Photoshop person from the very beginning, or to be a good Photoshop person from the very beginning, you need to learn good organization. Now, up here, I want to leave only the home as the black one. So I'm going to turn off the rollover for about, for services, for work, and for contact. And that's how I want you to turn yours in. A white Photoshop here and a home here are the rollovers that are left on. Now let's make a folder out of this. So everything that has to do with the lettering for up here, including the white rectangle. So please watch how I do this. I'm going to pick up this rectangle layer and put it right below the MACA 1320. So in order, do you see how I have all of the elements? You see how big that is in the layer palette? Those are all the elements that are in the rectangle, including the rectangle. So how do you do this now? All you do is click the folder, and you can say title bar. And I'll even put the buttons in there. Title bar buttons, hit the return key, Command S to save the file. We're getting close, okay, on this. Now, I'm going to now go into doing the circles. So I'm going to show you where they go. So we need one circle. We can turn one circle into 8 circles. First, we're going to do the ones across the top, okay? And then we're going to distribute them. Then we're going to copy all 4 for the bottom. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go back to this one. And in here, let me go to my notes. In here, I say that I want the circles to be 150 pixels wide. So I have my info palette right there. Now remember that I want a circle. You remember this rectangle selection thing? Right-hand click and turn it into the ellipse. Thank you. You do that, please. Right-hand click, turn it into the ellipse. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a lesson on drawing. If I click and pull, do you see I pull from the upper left to the lower right? Do you see if I don't hold the shift key how I can make it all weird, and I can make an ellipse this way or an ellipse this way? But if I hold the shift key, all I can ever do is make a circle. Now, if I hold the Option or Alt key, it actually goes from the center out, which is very convenient. Now look over here to the height and width, right over here. I'm going to make it as close to 150 as I can, which is right there. 151 is fine. And now I'm going to pick it up. Look, with this tool, you can pick it up if you hold it and hover next to the edge right now. And I can move this approximately right there. Where you put it is up to you, and you can move them in a few minutes. So now I need to fill this with a gray. Okay, so I don't have a layer for it. So I'm actually going to say, I'm going to make a new layer right there, and it's going to be photography button. So I go photography button, and I hit the return key. Now I want it in a gray. I want it in a lighter gray. So I'm going to click the foreground color, move this up to a lighter gray about right there, and I'm going to fill it. So here's the thing I told you to make sure. Are you on the right layer, Brian? Answer is yes. So how do you fill with the foreground color? It's Option Delete or Alt Backspace. Cool. Now we are going to add an inner glow to this, but first I need to deselect. So Control D to deselect and Command or Control S to save the file. Now over here in the gray area, I'm going to show you what it looks like. See how the buttons over here have an inner glow? Well, we're going to add that plus a drop shadow. Okay, so that's what we have to do. So let's go over to here. I'm zooming in, right? That's Alt or Option, middle mouse button, in and out. So over here in the gray area, double click. Let's go to our inner glow. And you can see in the inner glow how you have choices. You can make the opacity be really white on the edge. You can actually take the size. See how I can actually add more feather to it if I wanted? Or I can choke it. See how I can make it really tight like this or really loose like that. Okay, so that's good. I'm just going to leave it just like that. That's fine. I'm good with that. And now what I want to do before I do any titles is I want to copy it 4 times. And then I want to space it out. I want to make sure that it's aligned correctly. So what tool do I need to be in? Yes, the Move tool. Okay, the Move tool. Now I'm going to click and hold the Shift key, and I'm going to put it kind of 1/2 an inch away from this. Let's go to the other one and see what I did. So you can see here, if I show you the guides, you can see that I'm close to the top. I've given a bunch of room for everything here. So I'm trying to make the one for photography and the one for caricature, I don't have the words yet, pretty even. So let's go back to this. So now, to make a copy, you're in the Move tool. You hold Alt or Option, you click and hold the Shift key, and make this one go over here. Now that's pretty close, wouldn't you say? That's pretty even visually. Now let's do the same thing. Click and hold, and put one right there. Then I'll put another one real close. And the reason I put them real close is because I want you to see that I have 4 circles. Now I need to rename these, all right? Photography button is the bottom one. This one here is actually going to be, let me see if I actually named it. So this one is image manipulation. So I'm going to type in here image and I'm not going to have to type it more than once because I can copy and paste it. So I've renamed this one. Whoops, that's the wrong one. I need to, that was my mistake, my mistake. I need that one here to be down here. I need it to be there, and this one, Command C, should be this one, Command V or Control V. So now I have that one. Okay, this one here is really the end one. So now it goes 4, look at 3, 2, 1. Right? So make sure your order is correct. But it goes photography, image manipulation, 3D textures, and caricature. So this one should be 3D textures. I'm making sure that I have them spelled right, with spaces this time. And this one is, I already forgot. Caricature. Did I spell caricature right? I think I did. C-A-R-I-C-A-T-U-R-E. C-A-R-I-C-A-T-U-R-E, and I have that right. Okay, so let's go here. And now let's align them. So with everything in the right order, I'm saving the file before it quits. And I'm going to shift click all of them. Cool. Now, let's go to where? Right there, which is to distribute. And now look how perfect that is. Okay. Now we need to take them and move them down, okay, for the other dots. So let's grab them and put them into the new layer button. All right. Now, I already have them. They're right there. I just have to click, hold the shift key, and move them down. So that's another way to copy them. And I'm going to leave them right there. Right there. Now we need the names for them. Okay? We need the names. So remember I ended with caricature right there. The next one should say organic object. So this one right there should be, and it's in the right order for some reason. This one right here should say, what did I just say? Organic object. And hit the return key, Brian. This one should be that one right there. Perfect. That one now is hard surface object. Hard. Did I say? No, product. And I'm hitting the return key, and I'm going to say Command S or Control S to save. And now, okay, the next one here is movie poster. So let's go movie poster. And this last one is going to be tear sheet. Now, I won't have to type those again for the titles because I can just go click, copy, and paste them into the titles. So all I basically have to do is do one title, make the titles go across. This is going to take a minute. So let's do the first title, which is down here, which is photography button. Okay, and I shouldn't have put in here, let me see what I did again, goodness gracious. Okay, I shouldn't have put the word button in here, so I'm going to take it away. My mistake, my mistake. So you see down here, now it just says photography. So I double click it and hit Control C or Command C and click away. Now all I have to do is take the T key, click right there, and hit Control V or Command V to paste. Now I want that up a little bit more. So let's zoom in, Brian. Let's take the Move tool and put it underneath the photography button, just like that, but make it slightly bigger. Let's go to 6 points. I spelled it wrong. I spelled it wrong. Okay. I'm sure you all were laughing at me, which is just fine. I can be laughed at. So I better go over here and type it correct. Oh, you all were just having so much fun with that. Actually, I'm going to triple click this. Isn't that smart? Go over to here, double click this and hit Control V or Command V and Command V again and hit the return key and save the file. So, okay, I fixed my boo-boo. How many boo-boos are you going to make? Probably kabillions. Okay, so now I need this name to be put under all four, and then we can just copy and paste the names as they move their way across. Okay, so let me zoom in. In the Move tool, I'm going to do this very quickly, and then I'm not going to start to announce what I'm doing. So I'm in the V key, hold Alt or Option, hold the Shift key, and move across. Repeat. Click, Option, click, and now I have this one. Now, repeat, click, and hold Shift key and move across. Okay, now I can put them all down here. So if I grab all four of these, see this? Grab all four. There's two ways I can do this. I can hold Control Alt and move all four down like that. You see how I did that? I can hold Control. I said that wrong. Let me Command Z back. So if you're in the Move tool and you have all 4 layers selected, I want to be clear about this. I can hold the Option key on one of them, click and hold, add the Shift key, and it will copy all 4. Okay, that's how I could have done that. Now I'm going to Command Z back again. The other way I could have done it is to just select them all in the layer palette, drag them to the new layer icon, just take the Move tool and move them down. Both ways were just fine. Okay, and let me move the cursor key and put it back up, and then I'm going to take these right here and move them down just a tad. Okay, so now let's name them. So the next one, let me make sure that this one says photography, which it does. Now I'm going to name them in order here, and then we'll put them above their buttons when we need to. So image manipulation is the next one. Now I click and I go here, and there it is. And now that should say image manipulation here. Now watch how I make it say image manipulation here. I double click the T right in the picture and hit Control V. And now I'll leave it there because I need to now center it better. So let's go do the next one. The next one is 3D textures. So I hit Control C or Command C. I now take this one, Command V, double click the T and hit Command or Control V and hit the check mark. Now I take caricature, Command C or Control C, click right there, paste it, double click here in that T and paste it, hit this. Now let's just center them. So you remember in the Move tool, watch how cool this is. I can right hand click and go right to that layer. Simply use my cursor keys and move that over. Now it's taking a little long, but that's okay. And I like where that is. Right hand click, go to 3D textures. That one was already good. Right hand click, go to caricature, move it to the right. Okay, now let's do the ones on the lower one. Okay, we should put these buttons where they need to go, but we will in a minute. So this one I'm triple checking. This one should say organic object. So let's go up here and get organic object, Command C, go down here, paste it right there, double click that one, which is the one for organic object, paste it, and hit the check mark. Let's now go get hard surface product. Command C or Control C. Go to the next one. Paste it. Double click the T. Command V to paste it or Control V to paste it. Check mark. Let's go get the next one, which is hard surface product. Whoops, I already did that one. Movie poster. Command C, go down to this one. Command V, double click the T. Command V, check mark. Now let's go get the last one. Tear sheet. Command C or Control C. Go to this one. Control V. Double click this. Control V or Command V and check mark. Now let's use our technique to center them. So in the Move tool, right hand click, go to Organic Object, and now center it with your cursor keys. Right hand click, center it with your cursor keys. And I realize this is taking a second, but that's okay. All right. And maybe I have them too big. So I should go down 1 point size. The client might make me go down 1 point size. So let me, or even 2. So why don't I anticipate what the client is going to say? So if I select every one of these from photography to tear sheet, I can actually go, you see how I did that in the layer palette, right? I can go to 5 points and hit the return key. And now I have to kind of redo the centering. But I think that looks better, don't you? Okay, so right hand click and go to photography, Brian, move it over. Right hand click, go to image manipulation, move it over. Right hand click to 3D textures, move it over. I'm doing this for you in front of you so you see how things are done, and I just want you to know that nothing is perfect. And if I have to do a step over again as I'm going through this, remember I'm in the Move tool. I'm right-hand clicking to go to Movie Poster Layer, and you can see just how convenient this is, just how amazing this is, and I better save this file right now. So now what do I need? Well, if we go to my other file, we're almost done, I need white ones now. Okay, so I think it would be a really good thing if I just made the rollovers for these and then put them up where they need to go near their own buttons. So let's go back to this one. So let's keep our eye on the ball here. Okay, so if I go like this and shift click them, how do I make copies of these and keep them on top of each other? I just drag it to the new layer icon. There they are. Now all I have to do is color them white and click. Now let's go okay, now let's go put the word RO in there. So I'm going to have to type one RO, can't find the R and the O, and let's now grab it and Command C and then take my time, and I'm doing it again in front of you so you see just how quick I can actually do this. So I'm going to announce just what I'm doing. So I double click in here and I double click the word copy and paste it, right? Double click, paste it. Double click, paste it. Double click, paste it. And that should be it. Did I do that right? Why is photography next to tear sheet? Tear sheet, movie poster, hard surface, caricature, 3D texture. Oh, right. Okay. So that one now should be the rollover. Okay, I just got confused for a second. Okay, so now please watch how I do this. Okay, so let's hit the Move tool, and now the rollover for photography needs to go above it. Now keep that going. The rollover for image manipulation, keep it going. The rollover for 3D texture, the rollover for caricature needs to go above it. The rollover for organic object, the rollover for hard surface product. Look at how nicely organized I am, and now that's perfect. Now I'm going to show you something really cool in a few seconds. So let me hit Command or Control S to save. So now I've made all of these in white, correct? And I have the ones that are underneath. That's my son and my daughter-in-law texting me, so I'm sorry, I'm just going to ignore it. Now we need to put them with their buttons. Okay, so here's the photography button, and the words are all together. Did you see that there? So I'm going to now take, watch this, the image manipulation button and bring it down. Try to move the layer palette a little bit and put it below image manipulation. That's where I wanted to put it. So now let's go up to 3D textures and grab that button and put it above, below 3D textures. Perfect. Let's go get caricature and put it below caricature. Let's go get organic object and put it below here. If you're getting confused, just sit back for a second and try to realize exactly what you're doing, and then even if you have to write it down, then write it down. But look at how I've got all of this in the right order. Look at how pretty that is. My goodness gracious. Okay. My son has just told us that I shouldn't even tell you. Yes, I'm going to be a grandpa, so that's great. Okay. Yay! So let me hit Command S to save. Now if I can keep my mind on this, this will be great. I can't believe that just happened. So now let's go. Due to the photography button, we need to add, let me zoom in. I need to add a drop shadow. So you remember zooming in is Option middle mouse button or Alt middle mouse button. Okay. With this selected, this being this layer, I'm going to add a drop shadow to it. So I go to the FX on the bottom of the layer palette, look, FX, click drop shadow. Now, I want the drop shadow light direction to go more towards about 10 o'clock, so it shoots it to the opposite side. So do you see how now it's going to the right hand side? The more this is like a linear direction. So it's like a light source direction. Size is how much it's going to feather, okay? And distance is how far out it is. So you can be your own artist there. Now I'm going to click OK. Now, that's going to actually be part of the rollover. So when you roll over it, do you see how you will not see the drop shadow? Okay, but that's something for movie 2. Now, how do I get this drop shadow to the other layers that are image manipulation? So I hold Alt or Option, grab the word drop shadow, and put it up into right there. See how it went into there? Now let's keep that going. So hold Alt or Option, grab the drop shadow, and put it into 3D textures. Brian, just keep it going. Grab drop shadow, put it into caricature. Grab drop shadow, put it into organic object. Grab drop shadow and put it into hard surface product. Grab drop shadow and put it into movie poster. All the while my finger is down on what key? Yes, Option. Option copies this. So let me see if I have one more to go, and it's tear sheet. So I grab it. You have to grab the name drop shadow, hold Alt or Option, and put it into the icon, and it'll be right there. Command S to save the file. Now all we have to do here is put in the picture for the photography word. Okay, so this is your first introduction to how to do that. So I'm going to hide Photoshop for a second. We're almost done. I'm going to double click or go right hand click and open with Photoshop. Now I have the picture opened right there. I'll zoom in to the picture and I'll show you that if I right hand click in the gray area, not on the picture, not on the name, right hand click, I can duplicate this layer and I can change the destination to the one I'm working on, which is my demo PSD, and I can click OK. Now I can close that, Command or Control W, and there it is. Now that picture has to go one above. If it came up here, if it was right there, I need it to go one above the photography button. Okay, so now you can see it's in the layer palette. It's right above the button. Now I need to take temporarily some opacity away from it so I can see the button through the picture. Now I need to size the picture. So am I selected on that layer? Yes. Command or Control T. Now remember, if you're in Photoshop 2020 or less, you have to hold the Shift key. I'm in Photoshop 2021. I don't have to hold the Shift key. So do you see how now I can position this if I zoom in? Do you see how nicely I can see the button through the picture, and I can position this and get a little bit of bleed on the top right here and a little bit of bleed on the bottom, a little bit less bleed, please, Brian. And now that's perfect. See how I've put his face right there. Okay, a little bit higher, just a pinch higher. Okay, that is good right there. Now I hit the return key. Now, restore the opacity. And all you have to do is create what is called a clipping group. Now there's two ways to create a clipping group. There's three actually. If I shift click both of these, I can go over to here and say, I have to actually find it because I never use this, create clipping mask. But I don't want to have to do that. That's ridiculous. Watch the fast way to do this. Hold Alt or Option. Thank you. Hold it. Don't let go. Put your cursor between this layer and this layer. You don't have to have either one of them selected. Just put here, I'll select down here. Put your cursor between the picture. Here, I'll even name that picture or guy or whatever. There. And I'll save the file. Whoops, picturer. Okay. If I hold Alt or Option, do you see how I get a little clipping signal right between the layers? All I have to do is click it, and there it is. Now I think that my inner glow is a little bit too bright. So how do I do it? If I double click the word inner glow right here, see it right there? I can actually take the opacity down so it's not so strong. and I think I like that better. And that's it. We're done. All you have to do, and I'm going to hit Command semicolon to turn off the guides. Everything is done. The next thing is to do what we did in the side buttons. Let me go up here and, whoops, it's down here. Let me go and show you in the side buttons or in the title buttons. You remember how we, I guess it wasn't there. Let me show you in the side buttons how we color coded them. Okay, so we are going to color code these and put them in their own folder, and then we are done. Okay, let me check everything out here, and now I need to click on the word photography, which is the very first thing right there. Go all the way to the other part of all of these 8 buttons. Okay, so you see how I have everything selected for the 8 buttons. Let's click the folder. Now let's call this buttons. And that's good. That's it. That's fine. But let's now go into the buttons. And so we can gain our sanity again, would you please show me that you've color coded everything that has to do with photography? So look, I'm clicking on the first one, shift clicking on that one, right hand click in the gray area. I'll just choose red. Let's go to image manipulation and shift click all of them for image manipulation. Let's now just change that to yellow. Let's go here and let's go here. I'm going to check and make sure that you've done all of this. I'll just choose a green. Let's go caricature and shift click caricature and go down to blue, and let's go back to maybe red for organic object. So right hand click, you saw that I shift clicked all those layers. Let's click this one, shift click that one. Let's go to a violet. And now let's go to movie poster. I'll choose a yellow again. Just, you know what it does? It gives you an entire organizational feel, how you just feel that now you know that each one of these little groups belongs together, right? Even though they're in one combined folder. So this is how I want you to turn in your file, so that everything is together right there. All right. Now, remember that you're going to leave the white word Photoshop. The other two are going to be turned off, the rollovers. And the home rollover is going to be on, but the about, services, work, and contact are going to be off. I don't care what you do over here, but this is now what you do. And then in order to submit the file to me, you go ahead and save your PSD file. Save it. Go into the class. Okay, so you're going to click your class here. Let me go backwards and go into the module. So in the module on top where I'm clicking right there is your Dropbox. You're going to click the Dropbox and you're going to upload it where it says upload a file, and then this will say submit. Mine says published because I'm the editor here. So you're just going to submit the PSD file to me, and that's all you have to do for this assignment. Now if you want to, for extra credit and to really learn how to go convert this to a web page, now that we have everything organized, go on to movie 2. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next movie.